Welcome to the Orange Flag Podcast. If I had a nickel for every time this season car number 6 went from the last row to a podium finish in a WEC race, I would have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. I'm Nicole.
I'm Austin.
I'm Aries. And well, jumping straight in to what happened this weekend. If you, for some reason, had your head stuck in a hole, or if you were in a place that had no internet connection, the World Endurance Championship was at Fuji, that's in Japan, for its 100th race in its history. It was packed with action. A lot of stuff happened with some potential for championship affecting implications. And potentially, I feel like the biggest one, or maybe the second biggest one after what I just saw show up on my screen, were the penalties that Ferrari picked up for silly business. Silly business being making unnecessary contact with other cars or not paying attention to track limits, which, there are white lines painted on the edge of the circuit, so you should keep your car in between those. And it's not that difficult, is it? Well, as we can imagine, it's the usual suspects. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the phrase hydrogen bomb or the coughing baby thing, but I feel like these guys are all of that and more, because there is not one race where they don't pick up a penalty. It's ridiculous at this stage. It's killing me.
You sounded like me there with that track limits rant.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, I did. I might have inspired myself a bit.
Don't worry, that was also me watching this race, but for a separate car, because the 5 also had that problem.
Julian apologized on Instagram.
He did, and you know what? I accept the apology, but very much so in the middle of the race, I was cursing at the TV.
Yeah, I mean, that whole race was just a mess, honestly. Very exciting, but very much a mess. Because, like you said, the penalties have played a huge role in bringing this title fight down to the absolute wire. The red Ferraris not getting any points and the yellow Ferrari only picking up 2 points.
I'm surprised that they were able to.
Yeah.
At the end, when they were right there about to sneak into the point, just sneak into the top 10, I was like, please do it. Even if it's a point, it can mean a lot in Bahrain. And in the end, they picked up 2 points because of the Peugeot penalty.
Considering that Porsche lost by 2 points last year, then yes, those 2 points could mean a lot.
Yeah, you need to take all the chances you have, so good on the yellow crew. Personally, I'm cheering for them. So it was surprising. So, but frankly, I feel like the red Ferraris and picking up penalties has just become an integral part of a WEC race weekend. It's part of the certainties of life category. So I don't think honestly, I think it's asking way too much for them to keep it clean. And I seriously think they should at least start to think about a lineup tweak. I know we've been over this. They are not changing, but I feel like they should at least give someone else a chance.
Maybe they will.
Yeah.
I mean, even if it's just keeping the same 6 guys, but switching them around. Something needs to be done about the way that team's operating, because yes, some of this downturn since Le Mans is BOP related, without a doubt. But some of it is just a lack of operational excellence that I feel like they showed earlier in the season.
Yeah.
And that they certainly, have shown in the past, especially at Le Mans. So, did they, kind of like what I said about Tandy and Nasser at Indianapolis in the IMSA race, did they just get complacent in the fact that they were far enough ahead that they've started to get, weak on the minor details. And as we know, like, fine details are everything in racing. So, yeah. Although, these boys are kind of doing terrible at fine details because, can we figure out how to do a pit stop, please? We would have won that race without that 5-second penalty. I am sure of it. And then, like,
Maybe,
they
yeah.
got a reprimand at Coda for pit stop infringement. They got a reprimand and a penalty in Fuji for pit stop infringements. Like, we can't blame Kevin and, redoing what he did at Daytona and just not leaving the pit box for all of them, because, like, they weren't all when Kevin was in the car.
No.
So, I'm still not actually sure what Kevin did at Daytona, because his, like, Instagram story where he said what he did didn't make sense.
No, it made 0 sense.
So,
but
yeah.
He did something.
He did some, but they have screwed up only on, like, pit stop operation. That's the only thing they've done wrong, really, this year. So, they need to fix that, please. But yeah, I mean, like, the penalties, though, didn't overshadow the race, which I thought was cool. Like, I feel like we're being a lot more race reviewy than we normally are, but it's also an interesting conversation to have.
Yeah.
You would think a race with this many penalties, with this much going on, intervention-wise, that you'd walk away talking about that. But it's not. I think everybody that I've seen online agrees this was the most exciting race of the season, more than Le Mans.
It was. I agree.
Hands
I love
down.
Le Mans, and this was better.
Yeah, it was. I mean, and then just the excitement of, wow, any of these cars could win. Because, like, before the 50, it was the 50, right, that had been running in, like, 4th, 5th, they got a penalty and they fell further back. But, like, it felt like even they could have won at one point. It really felt at any point like any of these cars could have won. Had the full course yellow not come out when it did, and DeVries had not needed to do the emergency fuel and then the second stop, they were in the running. Like, Toyota was even in the running, and they've been nowhere all year. So this race really did feel like, for the first time this season, that performance was balanced, as opposed to a winner has been chosen.
Yeah. It does. It do be like that. Well, I guess I think it was the best. I think this was probably the best place for an exciting race to take place, because, as we all know, I am 12 hours behind Japan. So did I sacrifice an entire night's sleep to watch? You bet I did, and I don't regret that at all.
Yeah, I was up from 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. watching the race, and at no point did I feel tired.
Yeah.
Like, I was on the edge of my seat the entire... I said it online. I was like, oh, I'll just wake up in the middle for Kevin's stint, because I figured, as it did, it would go Larry to start, Kevin, and then Larry to finish, and it did that. I was like, I can just... And then, like, no, it was way too exciting.
Yeah.
There was none of that happening, so...
No, I was like the same thing. I was like, I'm watching for Jam. Jam's gonna do the end of the race. I'll wake up for, like, the start. If I fall asleep, I fall asleep, and then I'll wake up for Jam's start. Jam did do, like, 4 hours of the race, so there was, like, really no sleeping during the race.
Yeah.
But it got to that point, like, even I was like, oh, I'm just staying up the whole time. Like, I'm not even going to try to fall asleep, because it was just too many exciting, like, things happening after another, that there was just, like, no good time to be like, I'm going to go to sleep. And also, I just wasn't tired, despite the fact it was, like, 10 p.m. to 4 a.m.
So, like I said, the title battles are on. I don't think anybody expected that. Like,
Nope.
I don't think Porsche expected this. And I really still can't actually believe it. Like, they were talking it up the whole race, and I was like, this is stupid. Why are they talking about it? We're not going to be in contention. We are very much in contention. Like, we're not even in the Ferraris need to all DNF type contention. So, it's, crazy.
Yeah. I did not expect this at all. But here we are.
Yeah, I was reading an article earlier today that was sort of dissecting all the WEC title battles, and I'm honestly I'm still in shock that even Clean Air Merchants Caddy can still take the title.
They need everyone to DNF, though.
It's still
it's still mathematically possible, but they're a lot more long shot.
Yeah, that would be insane, though. But I don't think it's gonna happen. But that would be insane.
Yeah.
And then I guess the stuff you probably expected us to talk about. Ridiculous things that the Porsche Penske Motorsport boys did on social media. Such
Here we
as
go.
Kevin eating a giant scoop of wasabi. Kevin, how is that an acceptable race weekend food? But a very nice all-American chain restaurant like Chili's is not race weekend food.
Yeah. I'd also like to say, even by the logic of, oh, Chili's isn't race weekend food because maybe it's not, like, healthy. The 35 eats greasy pizza before wins, Kevin. Therefore, I think Chili's is race weekend food because it's not bad food. You can find something.
But, like, when Travis and I go to Chili's, he gets a steak and broccoli. So, like, I feel like Kevin could find really acceptable race weekend food at Chili's.
Exactly.
I think it's because we were telling him to come drink margaritas with us, and we didn't emphasize the fact that, like, Chili's has steak.
Yeah. Maybe it's only, margaritas are a no, but apparently non-alcoholic beer is a yes.
Who knows? It could have been alcoholic beer, because Jim and Julian were drinking beer of some sort.
Yes.
And I'm just assuming it was non-alcoholic, because when I was in Japan, your options were like beer or non-alcoholic beer. So that was literally what it said on the menu, because you order everything with like a touchscreen at most of these restaurants. So like, you say you want beer, and they bring you beer. You say you want non-alcoholic beer, they bring you that, because we had someone in our party that was occasionally getting non-alcoholic beer. So it's very common over there. So they very well could just like the taste of beer and wanted to have non-alcoholic. I don't know.
I don't know, but it was a very common thing in like a bunch of WEC posts of guys out for like dinner before the race was just beer. So I feel like margaritas aren't far off. We're going to Larry now. Larry, why does the back of your helmet say that you're a penguin? What does this mean? In French. It says
Yes, it
in
is in French. Yep.
But I have a lot of questions. Mainly
And
just why.
Someone who really seems anti-French.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand French is literally his language, so like he may be anti-France as an institution, but pro-French as a language. We're just very yelled at Petite, aren't we?
Yeah.
There'll be another episode out before Petite. So maybe they'll have forgotten about this one.
Yeah. It's fine.
But yes, Larry did seem very against the French this weekend.
Yes.
Quite amusing.
Yeah, which we gotta start by explaining why the whole French thing became a big talking point this weekend, because the driver lineups changed, and we're gonna go through the PPM family tree, because it was very important for this race weekend. So basically, Michael Christensen was not there this weekend, okay? So instead, he was replaced by Jam. And where is he? Matt, who was also not there this weekend, are the dads to Kevin. Kevin and Larry are the dads to Julian.
So there is context to all of this. If you didn't catch that episode, it's literally called the Portia Pensky Family Tree. But at Daytona, Matthew Jaminet, when he saw our Cam Jam and Kevin shirts, said, "Cam Jam and Kevin, Kevin's our kid." So that's where that came from. And then in one of Lawrence Vantor's vlogs that he used to do, he basically, him, Kevin, family. And Julian were doing a race, and Julian proclaimed that he was Kevin and Larry's kid. So that's where this whole family tree comes from.
Yes. So this weekend we had, the grandfather with his grandson in the 5.
Who he abandoned at the autograph session.
Yes, he abandoned him at the autograph session, and I don't know, the dads really didn't look like they were caring much about their child.
He was in their eyesight. I don't think that they were bad dads to him. They could see him.
But yes,
he was in a nice little roped off enclosure. He wasn't going to go anywhere. Like a playpen. Jam left him in a playpen. It's fine.
Yes, Jam left him in a playpen to go do vroom vroom hot laps. Very responsible grandfather right there. But away from the family tree, and now I give you your ranking of the level of Frenchness of the podium of this race. So your top 3 are Paul Le Chateau, Charles, and then Kevin, because they were all singing the national anthem and our French. Yes, and our French. After that, it's Jev, because Jev is French, but didn't sing the national anthem.
We can't forget the Alpine guy that was up there, the team representative, because he was also singing the anthem.
Yes. I'm gonna assume he's French as well, so he'll go with...
I think everyone, at Alpine, except for, a couple of the drivers, are French.
So we're gonna assume he's in that, first category. Then, it's Jev. Then after that, I've decided it's Peugeot, just all of Peugeot, because they're a French team, so they can go there.
Sorry, Paul. You're French now. Paul di Resta has stopped being Scottish, and he is now French.
Well, I'm saying the team is French, so they just go there, okay? Because the next 2, it's Ferdy, because I know he wasn't praying for the anthem to be over, but it very much so looked like he was praying for the anthem to be over. And then after that is Larry, because Larry on social media has just been complaining about the French the whole weekend. So, that's your order of the Frenchness of this podium, despite the fact that Larry does speak French, and Ferdy did proclaim that he only knows 2 words in French. Larry is still lower on the list.
Yes. I thought that it was hilarious when they didn't actually show very much of the PPM guys on the podium, but one of my friends took a video and sent it to me of the podium, and you can see Kevin is singing his little French heart out, and Larry is standing there looking so annoyed, and that was possibly my favorite part of the race, honestly, because it was so funny. And Larry, I feel like you kind of manifested this French cars 1-2 finish situation with all your whining about France. So maybe we don't do that in the future.
You know something, Larry, you know something you shouldn't do, or at least you should do a bit of research before you do it. The music you choose for your Instagram reels. So I was casually scrolling through my Instagram today, and I found his latest reel, showing an action sequence at Fuji. The music shocked me to the very core. You know, I'm Brazilian. I speak Portuguese and I understand the language. Guys, just a pro tip: don't choose Brazilian funk songs because the lyrics are usually very, very, very explicit. Just
I
leaving
think
it
he
out
lost
there.
a bet with Nasser. That's what I've decided, is he had some bet with Nasser. And in fact, Nasser sent him this video or this music clip knowing what it was and what it said, and was like, you have to use this because you lost the bet.
You know what? I can totally see this happening, and it only makes it way more hilarious than it already was. I think I was shocked for a good 5 minutes. I was holding my phone and looking at it. I was like, what am I seeing?
Aries was very concerned.
I
The
was.
boys are ridiculous on Instagram, so I really would not be surprised if Larry lost a bet with Nasser, and that is what this is about.
Yeah. Well, speaking of social media, we'll go to the PPM boy that wasn't there this weekend of Matt Campbell in the comment section of Matthew Jaminay's post, where he put sweet, sweet athlete sweet, which was definitely supposed to be sweat, sweat, athlete sweat.
It was a bad failure of a Danny Rick impression.
I get you both are Australian, but you failed, Matt. You failed. You did not spell it correctly. We got what you were trying to say.
Did we, though? It took us like 2 days to figure out what he was trying to say.
But it did in fact take us a while to figure it out. So maybe like spell check? If you don't have it on, Matt, turn it on.
The problem is sweet is a word. He just needs to proofread his comments.
Yeah, proofread better. I don't know.
And then perhaps if you follow Porsche Motorsport on Instagram, you saw that they did like a, hey, ask us questions to ask the team. So we, as the podcast, did that. Kevin always likes doing weather reports, so we asked for a weather report from Kevin, and then we wanted to know if Larry rented a bike in Japan, because he seems to rent bikes everywhere. So we got a weather report from Kevin, and Larry did not, in fact, rent a bike in Japan, but I really appreciated that Porsche answered 2 of our questions.
Yes, we apparently,
I don't think they got any other questions other than that first one.
We apparently made Larry sad about the fact he didn't have a bike.
We reminded him.
Yeah.
I remember, I think it was on Twitter. I don't remember who posted it, but I'm not sure if it was the Random White Memes or if it was Drayton who posted it, but it was something about Larry having a bike deprivation syndrome, something along those lines, and then
I commented and gave him a bike in the comments.
Yes.
Yeah. And his face was looking very, very downcast, or like longing for something he couldn't have. In this case, a bike.
Yeah, longing for bike.
Shirt idea?
Yeah.
Everything is a shirt idea if you try hard enough. Okay, well, sometimes I remind myself that I am apparently an Alpine fan, and I need to apparently talk about Alpine.
Are you?
I'm really not an Alpine fan. I'm really just a Charles fan. And he's in the 35, so we're going to talk about the 35. And the fact that they won, in case you somehow missed that, in the times we've also already referenced it. But interesting thing, if you didn't know, they're an all-gold lineup, or were an all-gold lineup. Charles just got upgraded, but at the time was an all-gold lineup that won the team its first hypercar win with this version of the car. which is pretty cool. So, awesome job to them. Charles's last stint was insane. And apparently now Alpine are called the Smurfs, according to Ferdy. And now I can't call Alpine anything else. They are just now going to be referred to as the Smurfs. Thank you for
It's
that.
I think it's a bit ironic though, because we were just on about Larry being against France as an institution, and he's Belgian. And where are the Smurfs from? Belgium.
I didn't think about that.
I just
That's
realized
great.
it. I also have a. You
Jeez.
know, we've been on about drivers' names before, and I have a question about Charles's last name. Uh,
Yeah.
Brazilian commentators were doing their thing again. I know in
Okay.
English we refer to him as Malaysi, but my Brazilian commentators they call him Milesi. So that's a thing
Are
that got
these
me
the same
confused.
ones that say astray?
They haven't said that in a long time, so
They heard
props
us.
to
Yeah,
They
them.
must
heard
have
us.
heard us.
So what I'm hearing is Charles. Tell us how to pronounce your last names.
We've been there before, so
I'm-
just leaving
I'm
it out
just
there
saying,
again.
every other broadcast pronounces it Malaysi, so
Never heard
Yeah.
it said any way other than Malaysi.
yeah.
Although I have also not heard any broadcast pronounce Kevin's last name correctly. So,
True.
like, everyone just kind of says it the way we say it. So, who knows? Charles Malaysi's last name might not be Malaysi. We need to find this out.
Yeah, Charles, hit us up. Tell us if we're pronouncing your last name correctly.
Well, it's like Alessio.
Yeah.
Like, half of the broadcasts say Picarello, which is what I thought it was, but he informed us it's Picariello, so
Yeah,
now we
there's
say
an
that
I in there.
correctly. Yes, but the broadcasters, for some reason, don't believe that's there.
Yeah. And
Go figure.
if the broadcast says it one way until I'm informed otherwise, I'm going to assume it's said that way, except for the way your broadcast says things. Your broadcast is the exception.
Your broadcast makes things up.
It's. I'm starting to think that. I mean, for all we know, even the GT World Challenge broadcast could be making stuff up with the other Alessio, because it's the only place where we hear Rovera and not Rovera,
Yes.
like everybody says.
True.
So who's right?
We'll just start asking drivers how to say their names, like in person
True.
at races. This
Yeah.
sounds like a great plan, so that we know how to say everyone's names right. Don't want to spend too much time on this because I think it's been beat to death on the internet, but Max Verstappen did compete in an NLS race where, there were pretty much no other pro cars contesting. But he did win, so like good for him, but it's gotten a little frustrating online to see people that genuinely didn't look at the entry list that are acting like he beat Maro Engel, that he beat Kevin Estra, that he beat Raffaele Marciello, like these major names that you would expect, like, okay, if he's gonna say he's a great around the Nürburgring, you gotta beat those guys. And you know what? If he goes and does the 24 hours next year and he beats those guys, props to him. But you can't go and compete in a 3-car pro class where, the cars are not even, like, the competitive cars are not there. The Falcon Porsches weren't there. Like, you just didn't have your super competitive cars. And that's not taking away his win, but it is taking away some of the, I guess, moral high ground to stand on to say, look, he came in and won. It would be like someone going and doing the Indy 500 and there weren't enough cars to field a 33-car field, so there were 6 cars and they won.
6 cars at
You know,
Indianapolis, like Jordan getting a podium in a race where there were only 6
exactly,
cars.
you picked up what I was putting down. That's exactly what this was. And does that make Jordan's podium in 2005 any less legitimate? On paper, no. They absolutely got a podium. Max Verstappen absolutely got. Max Verstappen and Chris Lullum absolutely got a win, because we cannot forget that that was a 2-driver car. People
Yes.
are acting like Max drove the entire thing. You know, the same way that in the WEC race, Charles Mallacy, Ferdinand Habsburg, and Paul-Loup Chatin won the race. It wasn't just Charles Mallacy. You know, like, yeah, he was the driver that finished it. It's not that at Coda, I totally say that Kevin won the race, but it was Kevin, Larry, and Matt. You know, that is a part of endurance racing that is extremely important. So I think that that's just, it's something that has frustrated me, and it does seem like there are fans that want to learn. You know, I bring this up because we brought it up as I'd love to see the comparison between Logan's fans and Max's fans. And a lot of Max's fans are doing exactly what I think everybody feared, which is acting like he is absolutely unstoppable and not taking into account the reality of the race he was in.
Yeah, I guess for a debut, he did what was sort of expected with how huge the amount of pro cars entered was. I feel like we need to wait for another opportunity where we have a full field, or at least 90% of the usual suspects are there, so we can actually measure how Max and the rest of the lineup he brings, because it's his team, so it's probably going to be Max, it's probably going to be Chris as well. I don't know who else it could be. Vermeulen, maybe, who's been racing for his team in GT World Challenge. We need to see how they are going to stack up to the rest of the NLS regulars. So it's an interesting new entry, and I feel like they're going to. They obviously still need to mature, but it was an interesting first glimpse of something.
And one thing that I think there were a lot of people that I think were confused about this online was like the fact that his car pulled out a 1-minute gap. That's not crazy at the Nürburgring. It just isn't. I know, like, if you haven't watched racing around the Nordschleife before, seems massive. But, you know, it's a 9-minute lap. So a minute isn't crazy. A minute's not, like, if you're thinking Formula One tracks, you're like, that's almost a whole lap. He's getting ready to lap the field. That's just like a little teeny tiny section of the Nordschleife.
Yeah.
Like, it's not as crazy as you'd think. This is the way that I tried to explain it to some people, right? You're going to be shocked what I use as an example, guys. Absolutely shocked. So if you think about penalties in Formula One, right? You're looking at potentially adding 5 seconds to a pit stop. So, like, a 5-second penalty is something you get for, maybe a 10-second penalty for running another driver wide, for causing some sort of crash, right? 10 seconds added. That's a really bad one. 100 seconds at the Nordschleife for incident responsibility. That's your comparison right there between the difference of a Formula One race and a race around the Nordschleife. Sorry,
I knew
Kevin.
it was coming, but I still wasn't prepared for it.
It's a great comparison, though. Like, honestly, it's a great way to explain the time difference to somebody. Like, if 10-second penalty is a first to last type thing in a Formula One race, right? 100 seconds only put them just barely out of winning. at the 24 this year. So that's how big gaps can be on this track.
Yeah.
It's just something that, if you're unfamiliar with the Nordschleife and you'd like to become familiar with it, that is some interesting stuff about it.
Yeah. I think this all just, like, a lot of the discourse online goes back to just, like, Max fans who didn't really know what they were watching.
Absolutely, and hopefully they inform themselves. It would not be this show without Porsche rumors, so little recap of the ones over the last week. Lauren, I don't believe you when you say you don't know anything about going to PPM, because the race and Sportscar 365 are saying you're going to PPM, so I'm just saying you're going to PPM. Please use the black helmet. You will have the best helmet at PPM. Sorry, Kevin, but unless you run your black helmet too, then the two you're going to have to duke it out. Lauren has one of the cleanest helmets in sports car racing. Like, his base design is so good. So if he runs the all black helmet that he uses in some of the series that he races, that will easily be the best helmet on PPM. And I told Lauren this.
See, my thing was the white helmet, because the white helmet is also blue and yellow, and I was like, Lauren, you're gonna end up accidentally matching Matt, so maybe don't pick that one.
Yeah, exactly. Don't pick that one. And then I think the big thing that people are talking about right now is Michael Christensen. He obviously did not race in Fuji because he's going to be Lauren's teammate for Petite, which is cool. Had a feeling that was coming for a while. Hadn't been announced, but I had been putting some feelers out online, and everyone's like, no, it's gonna be Alessio. And no, it's not. Like, we've known that all season that it's not gonna be Alessio, but I have reason to believe it's gonna be Michael, and it did end up being him. But the questions that I think people have are, is he leaving PPM? Because there's a lot of, is he even going to do Bahrain? I mean, that's really a 3-driver race, so I don't know why he wouldn't do Bahrain. The only thing I can think is if his kids do a round then.
Yeah.
And that would be, I think everybody in the world would understand him missing a race for the birth of his child.
Yes.
So, but if he does leave next year, is he retiring? Is he going to another team? Is he going to do GT stuff again? I mean, there's a lot of options, but I don't know. I feel like him leaving came out of nowhere news-wise and really coincided with him not being in Japan, which was literally just so he could test a car he hasn't driven for a year. Like, he has not done any GT racing since Petite last year. And yes, it was in this same car with this same team, but, not doing quite as much GT as, I would say, the rest of PPM kind of puts him on the back foot as far as jumping in for a big race to do GT. I'm really excited because I like when any of these guys do GT racing, so I'm very happy about this. And then another rumor that I've heard a lot online is someone from PPM's IMSA team will be going to WEC. I have an idea where this rumor came from.
Yeah.
I'll share that in time, or I'll let other people share it, but I have an idea where it came from. And then I just need all the other teams to leave our drivers alone. Please and thank you.
Yeah, I specifically need McLaren to leave Matt Campbell alone, because Zach Brown, you already have my F1 driver. You already have my IndyCar driver. You are not allowed to have my sports car driver. Okay?
Okay,
Thank you.
But hear me out. Here is your McLaren lineup. That would cook! You're telling me this lineup would not cook!
It would.
Kevin, I really don't look good in orange, so don't go to McLaren, but Matt and Kevin would cook.
It would cook, but I can't go through that.
And I don't look good in orange. Like, look, see, when I put on my Scott Dixon hat, I do not look good in orange. This is not my color. Like, look, I look much, much better in a black hat than I do in an orange hat.
I'm also just going to say this. McLaren only does GT4 at Bathurst. Matt, take that into consideration.
I'm sure he can make them do GT3 at Bathurst.
Yes, but I'm just saying, if I need to use Bathurst, I will use Bathurst. But away from the pain of lineup possible changes to everyone's favorite segment making a comeback. Welcome back to Team Coke versus Team Sprite. Today it's NASCAR edition. You're getting Carson Kvapil is Team Sprite when he goes to Carolina Panthers football games with sponsors for his NASCAR. So there you go. That is your latest update in Who Likes Sprite. Very important information for us to know. Another thing that at least all over NASCAR Twitter has become a big talking point, so I felt like we had to bring it up, was riding the wall, but literally riding the wall. Zane Smith's car went sideways, did a decent amount sideways on the wall before then flipping. So yeah, literal riding the wall. Was scary to watch, but he was able to get out of the car, so that's good. But definitely something you don't like to see, and it's been a hot minute since we've seen this exact scenario.
Yeah, I think Zane saw, what Ross Chastain has done in the past and said, I can do one better. I'm going to actually ride the wall.
Well, here's the thing. I think he just saw what his car has done in the past because his number car has been in this exact situation before. So I don't even think it's Ross Chastain copycat. It's, I need to do what my car's done in the past copycat. Zane, you don't, okay?
38 doing 38 things. Well,
Yeah.
I can say it was not just NASCAR Twitter. I think it was pretty much motorsports Twitter, because some people I know who only talk about Formula One were sharing the clip. I think I opened Twitter this morning. I think about 4 out of 5 tweets had an upside down 38 in them somewhere. I think my favorite comment was someone going, I think he's going to get a penalty for this afterwards because you can't do wall rides anymore.
That's incredible.
That's great. A+ tweet right there.
Honestly, the way that NASCAR is working these days, I wouldn't be surprised.
I was about to say, but don't worry, you'll get your playoff points back. Well, your playoff eligibility back. Just saying. I'm
just curious whether anybody that happens to own a team is going to be allowed to crash their cars out now. Just wondering. Because it's not like he's going to complain on himself. He's not going to go to NASCAR and say, I crashed my own cars that I own out of this race, so you should penalize me, whereas he would be if I'm talking about Denny Hamlin crashing Bubba Wallace out of, not out of the race, but out of the win.
Out of contention.
And yeah, I get it. Denny wants to do anything he can to have as strong of a playoff run as possible, and Bubba was gonna lock himself in, and I don't know, I guess clearly Denny the driver outweighs Denny the team owner.
Yeah, which it's very odd, because in some interviews he says the opposite, and then his actions say the opposite of what he says, and then other interviews he says the other way around. So I don't think even Denny Hamlin knows where he stands on the issue, and he just every day it's a different opinion on the matter. So he too is confused. What can I say? But another, I'd say, kind of happy, cool thing to see. F1 has did their testing. Roman Grosjean got to be back in an F1 car. I feel like everyone liked to see that, especially because he got to wear his helmet that he was supposed to wear for his last F1 race for the test, which was cool. And then James Hinchcliffe also got to go in an F1 car, which it was cool to see the two of them doing some laps.
Yeah, on, I guess, last week's episode of Off Track, Hinch was talking about, like, oh, I'm trying to figure out, or I had been trying to figure out what sort of training to do, and Rossi was just like, there's no neck training you can do to prepare yourself for Formula One. Like, I know that Alexander Rossi raced in Formula One because I met him when he raced in Formula One, but like, he talks about it so rarely on that show that until there's a reason to talk about Formula One, you really forget that he was a Formula One driver. But he was just dropping knowledge bombs about Formula One.
Yeah.
Like, because Hinch said something like, you know, Mugello, which is where he did the test, is supposedly one of the hardest tracks on your neck. And Alex was just like, no matter where you are, it's going to be hard on your
Yeah.
neck. And Hinch was like, well, what about Monza? Nope, still hard on your neck. No matter what, a Formula One car is hard on your neck, which to me, I feel like is crazy because you would think that the high-speed ovals in IndyCar would be harder on your neck, but I guess you can so heavily pad
Yeah.
the side of that you're just laying against a pillow almost. Because Hinch said that he was like, you know, I was really working on the forward and back motion of my neck, strengthening that because I just put big cushions on the two sides of my helmet for the sideways motion, and Rossi burned him for that. Like,
Yeah.
you can't do that. It was funny, and I really like when Alex Rossi talks about being an F1 driver.
Yeah. It's
fun
nice
to
when
me.
it comes up.
Onwards to IndyCar. The 2026 schedule has been out and about now for a couple of weeks, I think. I've completely lost track of time this past month. But yes, the schedule is out. If you are a fan of flat ovals, yay, because we're getting 2 races at Milwaukee again. And Phoenix is back, so wahoo. I think they heard me though, because earlier this year, when we were talking about the Gateway race, which was fun and entertaining to watch, I remember saying, oh, I think IndyCar should stick to flat ovals because flat ovals are the best. So, whoopee, there's my 2 cents contribution to
You
the
got
calendar.
exactly what you wanted.
Yeah.
Yes, give me flat ovals, please, and thank you. And, going on about Phoenix, that's probably the most intriguing part of what we're getting because it's a double between Indy and NASCAR on an oval. So that's gonna be a spicy time.
Yeah.
They've done so. Indy and Cup have run a double at the Indy Road Course before, but this is the first time for an oval. So I think that's going to be. It'll put IndyCar, hopefully, in front of a lot of fans that probably are not consuming IndyCar right now as a form of racing. If you look at the numbers, you know, NASCAR is always over 1 million and IndyCar is kind of stuck at 700,000. So if there's 300,000 fans out there that can be captured going forward from the Phoenix race, which, you know, is a very early season race, that would be phenomenal for growing the sport. And I think that they need to try and make something happen with a double. Some driver, I don't care whether it's an IndyCar driver or a NASCAR driver, has to do both series at Phoenix.
I agree.
Yeah. I've come up with some hypotheticals, mainly just because of drivers who have shown interest in this. Because before Phoenix was announced, when the NASCAR schedules were announced, which was before the IndyCar schedule, Trucks was announced to overlap with IndyCar for St. Pete. So we knew at least that was going to be an interlap, and we saw drivers from IndyCar showing interest in wanting to do Trucks. Obviously, now we know Phoenix is happening, so there could be a true double, but your drivers that showed interest in doing NASCAR specifically when that was announced was Scotty Mack. Will Power in interviews has said he wants to do NASCAR. Opposite direction, Connor Zilisch has said that he wants to try IndyCar. So those are kind of the three I have. Another thing I think that's kind of too obvious in my mind is obviously Arrow McLaren and the Hendrick connection of the doubles they've been trying to do, and it not going so great.
Yeah, Kyle Larson's the obvious one. I
Kyle
don't think we
Larson's the
even need to
obvious.
mention Kyle Larson because I think it's almost certain he's going to do it. Like, to the point where I'm not even considering him because I just think it's assumed Kyle's going to do it. He has the car.
Yes.
But I don't remember exactly what Zach Brown said, but he said something earlier this year about having someone in his contacts who is not an open wheel racing driver that is interested in driving a IndyCar.
I believe he said he had a young talent. And so
that isn't an open wheel racer.
That
so
isn't an open wheel racer. And so when everyone kind of heard young talent, a lot of people then went to the assumption of Connor Zilisch being.
But it could be Jesse Love. It could be Carson Voppel. It could be like I think everybody thought Connor because Connor is the big name of that age group, but there are a lot of young talents in NASCAR that I think have no reason not to be affiliated with Zach Brown. None of them have a clear connection to him, but it would be very interesting if he pulled one of those guys, especially the three I just mentioned, to do an IndyCar race.
I will say for Carson, there's been the kind of rumor around everything of like the Penske connection possibly being a thing there too.
Yeah, potentially.
So, and also now the new assumption, because there's been announcements from Junior Motorsports about new team personnel coming in and things like that. It's kind of been announced that Carson's doing part-time now in Xfinity, so that also becomes another thing now too of how this could factor
you
into
assume
that.
He has a cup seat if he's doing part-time, so
yeah,
I think we all assume that it's the number 2 car, but that hasn't been announced yet. That obviously, I think, maybe not obviously, I think that would preclude him from doing anything with Arrow McLaren for obvious reasons. But who knows? Maybe Roger doesn't care. Roger cares. Roger definitely cares.
Roger definitely cares. I will say for me, I think it's, in my eyes, more likely that there's going to be Chevy drivers doing the double, because you obviously just have that connection of they'll be able to go from like Chevy helping kind of make the connection between a Chevy NASCAR team and a Chevy IndyCar team than if we have the like Honda to something else sort of connection. So I think if anyone is likely to do a double, it is more likely to be a Chevy driver than a non-Chevy driver.
Good point. That's a good point. And also talking about drivers being free to cross over and do different disciplines. A positive surprise about Indy's next year's schedule is that there is no clash with the 24 Hours of Le Mans. So I know we were on about it this year, despite the fact that maybe a lot of hypercar teams wouldn't have openings anyway, but still LMP2 is there. So could we see someone again? Remains to be seen.
Yeah, the unfortunate thing is that a lot of the drivers that were in IndyCar last time that there was the opportunity, either their teams aren't there anymore to let them be able to do Le Mans, or they potentially, are not going to be trying to do LMP2. So, like, really mainly looking at Scott Dixon and Alex Palou. They are not affiliated in IMSA with a team that has a WEC counterpart. So, MSR Acura is ineligible for Le Mans. Even if, and this is something that I've seen people say online that is clearly getting confused. Even if Acura win the title, they are not eligible for a free spot at Le Mans. It needs to be a car that has a full season entry in the World Endurance Championship. Acura does not. So that's something that I think, because I will say, if you are primarily a WEC fan, you may not realize how they come up with which cars get to go to Le Mans, because it's not like in the Asian Le Mans series or the European Le Mans series where it is an automatic entry. It is at the whim of the France family combined with the ACO. So, like, even if PPM win the titles, it's not a guarantee that the 4 car shows up next year. They could choose a different car. Like, this year there were 3 cars that showed up from IMSA. There's nothing guaranteeing that the championship winner gets to go to Le Mans the way that there is in some other series.
And obviously, like, what we've seen from the MSR drivers doing, at least for this last Le Mans, the ones that wanted to do Le Mans did it in LMP2 because there wasn't that crossover. So if those guys that do have that connection with MSR don't want to do LMP2, they don't really have something else.
And I will say, the guys from MSR that did Le Mans in LMP2 are LMP2 drivers. They
Yes.
are actively competing in LMP2 and other series, or like in IMSA as well. Scott Dixon and Alex Palou are not. So that would be a pretty significant jumping into a car for them. Not saying that they wouldn't do it. I actually think of the 3 Ganassi drivers, Kiffin Simpson's the most likely one to do Le Mans. He is a champion in an LMP2 car. So, of the 3 of them, I would see him jumping in at Le Mans more than Scott or Alex. And that's not just because I'm a Kiffin fan. That's like legitimately, in that discipline, he is the more experienced and better sports car driver. He is a champion in ELMS in LMP2. Scott and Alex aren't.
It's the same kind of mindset I had for Arrow McLaren, where if anyone from Arrow McLaren is likely to do it, yes, Pato has done it in the past, but it's going to be Nolan. Like, Nolan has won in LMP2 at Le Mans. So, if anyone I think of, like, IndyCar guys to do a crossover for Le Mans, it's gonna be the IndyCar driver who's literally won Le Mans in LMP2.
Send the babies to France.
Do it.
That's my demand of IndyCar. Send the babies to France. Thanks for listening. You can find us on Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram at Orange Flag Pod. On Twitter, Nicole is at Nicole on Racing, Austin is at Hendrik Claren, and Aries is at Aries_Alpenglow.
Stay orange.
Send the babies to France so they can stay orange.
Was that to scare Larry?
We